postman comes to your house to deliver the parcel, but you are not in the home. So because of your unavailability, the delivery got failed. Again, next day, he again comes to deliver a parcel because again you are not in the home. So again the delivery got failed. So you feel frustrated because you want that password, but he is only coming when you are not there in the home. And postman also frustrating because whenever he comes, you are not there in the home, right? So because of this, what the idea will implement is, so you'll implement a post box. So now whenever the parcel comes, the postman comes to deliver the parcel. So even though you are unavailable, even though you are not in a home, so you can put the parcel in the post box. And you also don't have to care that I should be in the home whenever he comes. So in the middle, so you put a post box where he can put the password. So he also don't care that you should be there in the home, right? So now whenever you have time, whenever you back home, so you can take that parcel and you can enjoy it. So I am telling is this story is because, so not only in real world, so in the software engineering also, when two things are communicating with each other, so when two services are communicating with each other, so they, if they tightly couple with each other, means tightly coupling in the sense, so in our case earlier, so postman comes and your availability, so both are tightly coupled. So only when you are available, then only the parcel will get be delivered, right? So if you are not there, then it will not be delivered. So that is called a tightly coupled. So after you putting the post box, so now you both peoples are not tightly coupled. So in middle there is a post box is there. So now what happens, so even though you there or not there, so you can put in the post box. So in the software engineering also, so whenever multiple services are there, and when they tightly couple, so here what happens, when they are communicating, if one service wants to talk to other service, so assume other service is unavailable, that server is went down, the server is not available. So because of your this unavailability, so server one also going to be get failed in some cases. So in order to address this kind of issues, so in architecture also we will keep a queue service. So queue service is very important in terms of the big architectures and microservices. So microservices in the sense where multiple services are talking to each other. Okay, so not only you built everything on the single server, so you have multiple servers which are talking with each other. So as I told you, if they are coupled, so definitely if one fails, it will affect the another thing also. So that's why queue service you put in middle, so it will act as a post box only. So now what happens, so assume you have two servers A and B, you put a queue service in middle. I will show you an example, you can see here. Before that, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, you can subscribe it. And if you are new to our channel, I hardly welcome to our channel where we discuss about IT, software related career things. Okay, so if you're already a subscriber, thank you for that. Okay, so assume this is the server 1. Okay, and this is the server 2. Okay, so earlier, as I told, so they are connected with each other. So both only work when both are available. So if server 1 is not available, then it will affect the server, sorry, if server 2 is not available, then it will affect the server 1 also. Okay, so if server 1 is not there, so because as server 2 is dependent on that one, so it may also fail in that cases. So in this case, what you will do is, so you will remove the direct connection. So you will put a queue service. So queue service, what it will do is, it will decouple the services. Okay, so it will helps to mainly helps to decouple the services when multiple services you are using. Okay, so assume, let me give an example, best example you can give. So you have a application where you are building like a photo editing application you have. Okay, so video editing, photo editing. So when a user upload a photo or video, so you have another process which take this photo and it will edit it. Okay, it may take like applying filters, putting a song, cropping, so everything it is doing, right? So that's why what you will do is, okay, so assume this is the upload service is there. Okay, so one service is upload one, and another service is a process service. Process. Okay, so now upload is a one service and process is a one service. And what you will do is, so process service, it will take a 10 minutes of time to process one photo. Okay, so 10 minutes of time to process one photo. So earlier, okay, there's a two advantages whenever you use a queue. Okay, so mainly two advantages are there. So one is, whenever you have some services which don't react to the request directly, and it will take some time to request, so in that case you can put the queue service. So how the queue service, I will tell you. So as I told, the process service take a 10 minutes of time. Okay, so 10 minutes it will take the time to process one photo. So if I directly start injecting the data from the upload, so assume user one comes and he uploaded the photo, and the process service tip that one and you start processing that one, and 10 minutes didn't happen yet. Okay, so now the user two comes, he again upload the photo. So now what happens, the process 2 is already busy with the first person, right? First person's photo. So now it will throw a error because it is already been held up by other process, so it will throw a error. So in that case, so in order to remove this kind of a situation, so what you will do is, you put a queue service. Okay, so you put a queue service. So in queue service, so everything will be called as a messages. So you send the message. Okay, so we don't even usually call the data in the queue service, we call it as a messages. Okay, so now what happens, so now see here, now both are decoupled. Okay, so now service A don't know whom it is sending the data, okay, whom it is sending the message, and service B also don't know from where the data is coming. Okay, so now both are decoupled. Okay, so think of this queue service as a post box, and this is as a postman, and this is you. Okay, so now no one connected with each other. Okay, so now what happens, so instead of service A sending the message directly to the service B, so it will send the message to the queue. Okay, so you can put okay, so it will send the message to the queue now. And you may be thinking, okay, so queues are okay. So remember one thing, queues are very fast to process the data. It will take a huge amount of data. Okay, so at any scale. Okay, so it is very scalable, the queue services are. For example, if I talk about the queue services, what are there, like AWS SQS is there, simple queue service, and Kafka is there, Apache Kafka, and RabbitMQ is there. Okay, so these are the queue services you can use. So now the message it start. Okay, so user one comes. Okay, so he uploaded the photo, so it will come here. And what happens now, B service also talk to the queue, not directly to the A. So it will ask the queue, okay, is there any new message, is there, is there any new message arrived? So if yeah, there is any message, queue will give that one. Okay, queue will, okay, take this one. So after that it will take that photo. If any new messages is there or not. Okay, so now queue what will say, yeah, there is a new message, take this one. So service B will take that one and start processing that one. So again, second user comes and upload the photo. So again, service A upload it to the queue. Okay, send it to the queue. So again, next message arrive here. Again, next message arrive here. Okay, like this, the message start arriving. Okay, in the queue. And now messages are stored inside the queue. Okay, so it will not be vanished. That is a different thing. Okay, so you can write a logic for that to vanish. Okay, that is a different thing. But okay, so queue message will not be vanished. Okay, so whenever the B process, once it finished the first photo, okay, so assume the first photo has finished, then again it will ask the queue, okay, give me the next one item. So next item will come. Okay, again it will take a time. So now see here, it can take any, and how much amount time it wants it can take. Okay, so 10 minutes, 20 minutes, its own time it can take. Right, so earlier how it was, so once it starts sending the data, the service A, so it will throw error if it held by another process. So if a user 2 uploaded the photo, so then it will throw the error. So now again it will, once it process the second photo also, it will again ask, again the third photo will be given. Okay, so it will take a 10 minutes of time for everything, and it can process on its own time. So this is one of the biggest advantage. Okay, so this is called asynchronous. Okay, asynchronous in the sense, so you are not replying to the request at a sudden time. Okay, so you take a time and reply after some time. Okay, so for example, if I give, okay, this is a hypothetical. Okay, so whenever you go for a banking application, so you want to see the uh, bank statement for a last 3 months. So now application, what they will do is, so whenever you click on the download, you select the 3 months, you click on download. So most of the bank, what they will do is, so they will tell that we will send the this on the mail. They will not allow you to directly download it. Okay, so they will say that, so we will send it on the mail. So after 10 minutes, after 15 minutes, so that after that you will get that message. So this is asynchronously happening. So okay, so you are not waiting, okay, to for the response. Okay, so you can leave the application. Okay, after the 15 minutes the message will arrive to you, the email. So they don't need to process that at a time whenever you comes. Okay, so they can take their own time. Maybe it is taking time for them to process it. Okay, in our case, how it is 10 minutes, right? So that's why they can take a time, and after that they can send the mail. And synchronous is in the sense, so synchronous, you suddenly replying. Okay, so what is the messages coming? Okay, so you are not waiting and processing, you suddenly replying that one. Okay, so this is called a synchronous and asynchronous. So in asynchronous, when you want to process, so then you will put a queue. Okay, so next thing is, biggest advantage of the queue is, so assume you have some two servers. One is a very low configured and one is a very high configured. So assume in this case, okay, so in this case service A is a very high configured one. Okay, so assume some 64 GB of RAM it have, and some 1 TB of storage or something like that. But when it comes to the service B, so it only have some 4 GB of RAM. So 4 GB of RAM it have. So earlier assume, we don't have this queue service. Okay, so earlier they connected directly. So now one is a very high configured and one is another low configured. Okay, so now service A can take the load very fast, right? It can process from data from the user. It can take very much faster the data. Okay, and it start throwing to the service B. But service B is a very low configured. It cannot process the data as much as the service A can do because of its low configuration. So that's why, so it start throwing the data. Okay, so suddenly start throwing the data at the process B one after the other. So at some point it will overload for that one. So that might also happen for the e-commerce website also. Whenever the sale comes, so they cannot process that much amount of orders at the same time. So that also crashes sometimes. Okay, this may be the reason. Okay, so now what happens, now you will put a queue service in middle. Okay, so the same thing how we did earlier, you put a queue service. So now what happens, so even though service A have a very high configuration, okay, so don't worry about the queue can take huge amount of data. Okay, it was very fast. So now we don't have to care about that. Okay, I'm getting the request very fast from the service A. Now it can, whenever it can come, okay, come to the queue and it can ask the message. Again after 10 minutes, again it can come and it can ask the message. So at its own time, it can take its time and it can come. And whenever the service B also fails, okay, when it is up, not up and running, okay, it don't affect the service A also. Remember in our case, postman and your unavailability, okay, both are coupled. When you are not available, he can't also be delivered the parcel, right? In this case also, whenever B service is not there, so it will not affect the service A because it is directly talking to the queue. Okay, so not B. So don't care B is there or not. Okay, and B also, whenever it is up and running, it can come to the queue service. It can ask, okay, so while I was down, okay, is there any new messages are there or not? It can check it and it can start processing it. So now you decouple the services between both. So this is one of the biggest example and one of the biggest useful thing where queue can be used. And now thing comes, the retry mechanism and everything. Okay, so that is also a very important thing. Whenever one message arrive in the queue service, okay, so it will be there for the limited period of time. Okay, you can set that one. So 24 hours, based on your logic you can set that one. So assume, okay, one message come here, and usually we call it as a producer and consumer. Okay, so the service A is a producer and service B is a consumer. Huh? So now whenever the new message arrives, so consumers start consuming the data from the queue. So one message arrives, and this consumer took that one and start processing this one. And next process can be processed by them some different this one, right? So it can be processed by them some different consumer. And in some cases, if that message cannot be processed by some consumer, it will again put it into the queue service. Okay, so whenever it took that one, at that time the message will not be visible for other consumers. Okay, remember this one. So whenever it cannot process that one, and the message will again put into the queue, now again can be visible to the other consumer. So now others can also take that message, okay, any one of the consumer, and he can process that one. And after that, if nobody can process, and assume some 3 time 4 time, okay, if nobody can process, so then comes the dead letter queue. Okay, so dead letter queue. So what are the messages which are not processed? So you can put those inside the dead letter. Okay, so what is dead letter contains? So some messages, because of some errors, data type mismatch. Okay, assume you requesting some kind of a data type, but you received something different, so nobody can process that one. So now after some retry mechanism, because based on your logic, okay, 5 times 10 times you can set that one. So after that it will come into the dead letter queue. So after, you can any admin can just go into the queue, and he can check that what are the messages are there, and what was the problem to process that one. So dead letter queue contains the messages which are not processed. So this is a brief about the queue services, and maybe it look like a fancy thing and it can decouple service, but it is only useful for the big architectures. Okay, but based on your logic, okay, implement this queue service, because how much it look fancy and interesting, but maintaining the queue service is not easy, because you have to write a lot of different logic. One is for to take that from the consumer, again you have to put that on, again retry mechanism you have to put, again you have to go to the dead letter queue to look that one. Okay, so if you are small kind of applications are, if necessary, then only put this queuing service. Okay, so otherwise managing the queue service is very hard. So it will be very useful in the microservices, where multiple service are talking with each other, and in e-commerce website also, like order process, after that inventory, after that payment. Okay, multiple services are there, so everyone are talking to each other, one send the data to other, other send the data to the other. Okay, so that's how it works. So assume uh, order service is there, and the inventory is, the item is there or not, it will send the message, and it will take it and process it and check it is there or not. And again, that if it is there, then only it will again send the message that yeah, it is there. Okay, so now you can process it. If it is not there, and it should not send the data to the payment. Okay, so it will directly send back, okay, it is not there, so sold out. That's it. So just a message, sorry, you are passing between multiple things. So that is it for this video. If you found it knowledgeable, so don't forget to subscribe it, and also you can share it with your fellow mates and colleagues. Okay, so who can also get this knowledge. Okay, so don't forget to subscribe it, because of your unsubscribe we can reach out to more people, and more people can get the knowledge because of your one subscribe. Okay, so thank you so much.